All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals in today's video. They only have like a 10-12% chance to make the playoffs. I actually think personally it's much higher than that. I know that Carson Wentz and not Patrick Mahomes is playing against Denver next week for Kansas City, but I think it's closer to like 30% Cincinnati makes the playoffs. They need to win, and they also need for the Broncos to lose to Kansas City and the Dolphins to lose to the New York Jets or tie on Sunday. And then Cincy would make the postseason. But this is a team that's won 4 straight games. They really got shafted earlier on in the season. They lost 7 of its 8 games by 1 possession. Some of those, the 1-point loss to the Chiefs early on in the season, a 7-pointer to the Chargers, 38-44 loss against the Steelers back in the season, 2 losses to the Ravens by combined like 4 points. Joe Burrow's having an insane season. He leads in the NFL in passing yards at 4,229. He's got 39 touchdowns. He's got only 8 picks. Jamar Chase is going for the triple crown here. He leads the NFL in receiving yards at over 1,500. He also has 16 touchdowns. I mean, this team has so much talent on offense. It's truly insane. T. Higgins just had his best football game of his NFL career for Cincinnati on Saturday, catching 3 touchdowns. Huge reason they won. And there's so much pessimism when people talk about Cincinnati. And, Joe Burrow just said, like, you don't want to make a living out of letting good players walk. I really feel like Cincinnati, especially if they don't make the playoffs, is going to fire all their coaches. And I think they're going to go all in on some proven defensive players. But we're going to talk about that later on in this video. But folks, welcome back to the channel. Obviously, we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals in today's video. But before we do, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content and a couple of Bengals videos every single week. Now, the main flaw is the defense, right? The main flaw. But there's even a lot of little stuff with both the offense and the defense. We'll start it off with the offense that I think you can build off of. First off, just Chase Brown. He's 10 yards away. I don't think he practiced today. He was warming up or working out with T. Higgins on the sideline. Really hoping he plays in a couple of days because he's going to be huge. But Khalil Herbert did a good job in his absence. But my point is, Chase Brown's 10 yards away from being a 1,000-yard runner on the season. We all know he can catch the ball as well. He's got 7 total rushing touchdowns. Chase Brown is only in his 2nd season now. He's only 24 years old. And it just is a huge upgrade over Joe Mixon for, contract, just rookie contract. It is just, I think he's a little bit more multifaceted than Joe Mixon, and he's younger. He's much younger than Joe Mixon. So I love Joe. Everyone loves Mixon, but I do think that was a very good move that Cincinnati made this past offseason. Zach Moss, unfortunately, hasn't played in forever, so he didn't hit on everything. But another thing they hit on was Mike Gesicki. And Joe Burrow just recently said that he would love to have Mike Gesicki back next season. Now, amongst Bengals tight ends, Gesicki has the 3rd most receiving yards in a season this century, and he only needs 19 in Week 18 to pass Tyler Eifert's Pro Bowl season in 2015. Mike Gesicki has been really sleepy this season as far as just like, everyone's talking about Joe Burrow, everyone's talking about the Bengals losing, Jamar Chase having a crazy season, T. Higgins. Mike Gesicki's just kind of flown under the radar is a better way to put it. 57 catches, 597 yards, and 2 touchdowns. In the 5 games where T. Higgins was injured and he was pretty much like wide receiver number 2, he had 26 catches for 312 yards and both of his 2 touchdowns. Against Denver, even in a game where Jamar Chase did his thing, T. Higgins did his thing, I mean, both of them eclipsed the 100-yard mark. Gesicki had a season-high 12 targets and 10 catches, and he finished with 86 yards. So my point is, like, last year was an absolute mess for the Bengals tight end room. The year before it was Hayden Hurst, and they let him walk. And so Mike Gesicki being with Cincinnati this season, I made a big deal of it in the offseason, and I just think if they can get him back long-term moving forward, he's only, I think he might be 29 now, but he was 28 to start this season. Mike Gesicki's a really talented tight end, very underutilized not underutilized, very underrated, underrecognized across the NFL. But I think that's like just a really good example of it's not, since he wins this game on Saturday against Pittsburgh, or let's even say they lose it and they get officially eliminated from the playoffs, I really don't think it's truly the end of the world. Trey Hendrickson's having a phenomenal season. Jermaine Pratt's doing his thing. Cam Taylor-Britt got benched a couple of times, but he's trending back in the right direction. The Bengals defense has been just the thorn in their side, and it's obvious, right? If their defense could get just a couple of stops here and there. And to be honest with you, I think they played on Saturday against the Denver Broncos in a game where Denver you win and you're in. Very big playoff game, huge for Cincinnati. But I think the defense stepped up when they needed to step up. And obviously that game shouldn't have gone into overtime. They did give up some big plays to Marvin Mims, but for the most part, I think they played fine. I think they played above average, but they're still 27th in the National Football League. They're allowing 26 points and 360 yards per game. But Jermaine Pratt just had a phenomenal game. He was number 1 in PFF. He's number 3 in coverage grade at 87.2. He had 4 defensive stops. He had that interception. He allowed 0 first downs in coverage. And then you got guys like Geno Stone. Here's his stats among safeties since week 14, according to PFF. 90.7 PFF grade. That's number 2. 106 coverage snaps. He's only given up 4 reception yards. He's got 3 interceptions, number 1 in the NFL. And he's allowed a 16.7 passer rating, which is 3rd in the NFL. So my point is, and he got guys, Jenkins, Miles Murphy, second-year guy, Josh Newton, the rookie. It's a very young defense. It really is. And the Bengals have 6 draft picks this upcoming class, and I honestly assume they're going to make some big-time moves, once again, especially if they don't make the playoffs. But, look at a guy like Sam Hubbard. I think he's probably just going to get straight-up cut because, honestly, just underwhelming this season with injuries. But, I think they're going to move into a different direction. But what they have to do is hit on a lot of these draft picks. If they're not going to go out there and spend money on the defense, which honestly, like I said at the beginning of this video, especially if they miss the playoffs, I do think Coach Lou's going to get fired. I think Coach Zach Taylor's going to get fired. I think they're going to haul their whole coaching room, re-sign T. Higgins, make some moves on the defensive side. I mean, look at a team like Minnesota, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, Jonathan Grenard, a lot of moves that nobody really made a big deal out of. And they hit on so many free agent acquisitions. And it's not like they're paying an arm and a leg for Andrew Van Ginkel and all those players. They spent a little bit of money, but they hit on so much. So if you got a good GM, and I believe Cincinnati is a good GM, I just think they're a little bit cheap. They've got 6 draft picks, 1 in each of the first 6 rounds. I highly anticipate they're going to spend most of their cap space on defense. Obviously, you got Jamar and T. But defense, I think they're going to make some big moves in free agency and in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if 5 of these 6 draft picks are defensive players. So my point just is, it's not as black and white as, this is Super Bowl or bust season. If they don't make the playoffs, Cincinnati Bengals are ruined. That window is still wide open. There's probably 25 teams that would kill to have the Cincinnati Bengals offense. You got to utilize it. Everyone knows it. And I think this is finally going to be the summer where they do make those big time free agent splashes, or just more free agent splashes on defense specifically. Folks, that is it for today. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. And guys, give me your thoughts down below. Are the Cincinnati Bengals making the playoffs this year? We'll see you hopefully Saturday night. That's it from me. Peace.